Hi Sugar Freedom fans, it's Catherine Gordon with today's Q&A, and it's all about, well, nightshades. Hi, my name's Catherine, I'm a Taurus, and I love tomatoes. Actually, that's kind of like a line from a B-52 song, and it's true. I am a Taurus, and I do love tomatoes. The question is, do they love me back? And do they love you back? Not too long ago, I was asked, because I've gone carnivore, and I talked about the fact that now that our vegetables are coming in to our vegetable garden, that I was going to go back and see if I could add some vegetables back. And I was asked, do you avoid nightshades? And at that point, the answer was no, because I really hadn't thought about it before, and I really hadn't tried to avoid nightshades. When I was eating above ground vegetables as part of my ketogenic diet, which I sometimes follow, my favorite vegetables were the vegetables that we call low residue vegetables, so they're not extremely high in fiber. One of the things that you may notice if you've gone carnivore is that your digestion gets very regular. Michael Anthony is somebody that I follow, Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Paul Saladino, and we have had this reaction, this wonderful reaction, that digestion gets very fine and very regular, and that when I've gone back to high fiber foods, things kind of fall apart. Bloating and things just don't go well. So I had read a book called Fiber Menace that had talked about this concept of low residue foods, and there were some vegetables, including some of my favorites, lettuce, tomato, cucumber, that are low residue. They're not super high in fiber. However, the tomato is a nightshade, and I want to show you this beautiful ripe tomato from our garden. And we have several that are even prettier than this, but they ended up going over to my husband's best friend's house because I'm not going to be eating them. And since I'm not going to be eating them and my son doesn't really like them, we decided to go ahead and take the beautiful fresh tomatoes, including these gorgeous orange cherry tomatoes, over to our friend's house so that he could enjoy them because he doesn't have a problem with them. It's hard to give things up that you've grown yourself. I haven't had a whole lot of problem over the years giving up the sugars and the grains and the starches that obviously make me hungry and made me gain weight and made me bloated and in pain. But it's been a little bit more difficult to accept the idea that something that I'm growing, some wholesome thing I'm growing in my own backyard, is something that I'm going to have to let go of. But here, let me tell you the reason why I am letting go of them is because 2 weeks ago, when our tomatoes got ripe and I started eating them again on a regular basis, I obviously noticed symptoms. Number one, I was hungry the rest of the day. If I was eating tomato at my noon meal, I found I was really, really hungry at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which makes a lot of sense. The cherry tomatoes that we were growing at home were crazy sweet. They were so delicious. They had incredible flavor, this wonderful balance between acid and sweet, so delicious, but I found that I had a difficult time stopping eating them. And then on top of that, this was really weird. I had been doing more training lately, but I threw my back out and I haven't had back pain in years. And I was wondering, because this year we kind of had a bumper crop of tomatoes. Last year we didn't grow that many. The year before we didn't grow many at all. And I could not remember tomatoes ever affecting me this way. But definitely this year, and of course I've kind of been through menopause since then, definitely noticing that difference, having back pain, experiencing inflammation. So do I eat nightshades? Well, what I have discovered is that the way I reacted to our tomatoes, I reacted this way: cravings, hunger, inflammation in terms of back pain. But for me, as someone who has been addicted to sugar and carbohydrates, the worst part was the cravings and the hunger. And I don't care how pretty that tomato is or how proud I am that I grew it or how good it tastes. If it literally causes me pain and cravings, I'm going to leave it out. Other typical nightshades: potatoes, eggplant. Really interesting. Yes, we grew white Yukon Gold potatoes. And so once again, I'm letting my normie husband and my son eat those, and we'll give those to friends. There is one other thing that we're growing that's coming in very well, and that is zucchini squash. If you have a garden, you know how easy that is to grow. I think I may test out the zucchini squash and see if it affects me. A number of people in the carnivore world who talk about the concept of going carnivore-ish have talked about eating squash, but I'll have to be very careful. In Fiber Menace, the doctor who wrote Fiber Menace talks about peeling the zucchini, and that may be better. And of course, the rind is my favorite part because I can make zoodles out of it. Isn't that typical? But I think there's a real connection between the foods that we don't want to give up may be the foods that we would feel better if we did let them go. But we're going to see on the zucchini. The second cue of this Q&A, cue number 2, is on artificial sweeteners. And I have, hooray! I am in the middle of week 3 of no artificial sweeteners whatsoever. And in order to manage that, I had to give up Trident, and I had a compulsive Trident chewing habit. I was chewing a pack a day of Trident, and that's 14 pieces, and so that's 14 grams of carbohydrate. Hello, almost enough to knock you out of ketosis right there. Now, if you're a keto fan, you know already that we're talking about 20 grams of carbohydrate total throughout the day. Because the truth is that although I have found an extraordinary freedom from craving and hunger on a carnivore diet, I do sometimes go into keto land adding back above ground vegetables. But this, of course, is what I'm dealing with right now. And what I'm sharing with you is this experiment of, can I add back the vegetables that I grow in my garden? So far, the answer to that question has been, sorry, probably not, but we'll see. We've still got zucchini. But now we're on artificial sweeteners. So all of the artificial sweeteners are gone. Even the natural sweeteners like monk fruit, which I had used, xylitol, erythritol, any of those mixes. The only thing that's left is a little bit of liquid stevia. I'm using a couple of drops in some sparkling water and a couple of drops in my coffee in the morning. And I am getting prepared to let those go. So how am I preparing to do that? And why am I still using them in the first place? What I have found, especially after meals, is this when I have this desire to have something sweet. And that's when I was reaching for the sugar-free gum. And that's also when I still am looking for that extra refreshment of having that sparkling water with just a little bit of stevia in it. And what I have come to understand is, if this is something I don't want to give up, that's definitely a craving. And I've come to understand that the more that I let these craving foods go, the freer I become, the healthier I feel, and the less of an issue they are. There is a saying, Samuel Johnson once said, abstinence is as easy for me as temperance is difficult. So nothing is easier than a little bit. And that is definitely what I'm discovering on my carnivore journey, carnivore experience. So what am I going to do instead? Because one of the things that I have found is that I don't really have a high pain threshold. I don't have a very high craving threshold. I need distraction. And it may be that you too. And I'm sitting here at my piano right now. And so one of the things that I have found that I can do is I can actually practice some piano. I can do a couple of dance steps. I sing, I draw, and I actually gave myself a special, I don't do food treats anymore. Now I do special things like art supplies, music, buying a new song, maybe a new pair of dance shoes. So I'm actually using pleasurable activities that I really enjoy to replace the pleasure that I'm missing from food. So this idea of substitution can be incredibly helpful. If you are missing something, find a substitution. For me, that tends to be playing with the pets, playing music, singing, dancing, art. Actually going back to a lot of these things that I used to enjoy in my childhood. And I would say that's a really good idea. See if you can go back to some of the things that were fun for you as a child. But I've got something else that I think is even more helpful. You'll notice we're on at right about around 2:30, and I want to be doing these live sessions at 3 o'clock on Thursdays. One of the things that you can do that I have found incredibly effective is if you enjoy social media of any kind, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, here you are, so you must enjoy YouTube. I have a great idea for you. Reserve your social media for those times when you might have dealt with food cravings. So I am going to reserve checking Twitter, checking YouTube. I don't check Facebook that much anymore, but it is one of the places where I can put up videos on my Cat Van Do, on my Sugar Freedom channel there. Reserve social media. Allow that to be kind of a treat, because I think that you know that when you're looking at your social media, if you're getting more followers, if you're getting likes, that gives you that dopamine hit. And let's be honest, or at least I'll speak for myself, I know that I have been using food to get that hit, to get that pleasure, and then also to avoid things that I really need to be doing. So it's just that way of, it's very childlike, very childish, soothing myself, doing things that I want to do, as opposed to things that might be things that I need to do in terms of long-term goals. So that might be an idea where if you like social media and if you want to check it, you might hold on, and that would be the thing that gets you up from the table. Because as a recovering compulsive overeater, the hardest thing is to stop eating once you've started. But if you have pleasurable things in your life, if you have pleasurable non-food things that are planned, they can break that cycle. Because I think, quite frankly, I think it's only human to want to have fun and to want to enjoy pleasure. But the good news is, especially what I found on my carnivore experience, is that as I let go of the foods that are hurting me, as I let go of the foods that I crave or I compulsively eat, all of a sudden there's room in my life for the things that I really love. And then on top of that, I did some research, and there's some videos on my channel that I was doing about a year ago on the connection between sugar and carbohydrates and blocking serotonin, sensitivity and production of serotonin. So now what I'm finding, which is like, you've heard of a lose-lose, correct? Well, this is a win-win, in that as I eliminate the sugar and the grains and the carbohydrates, my serotonin sensitivity is normalizing and other things give me more pleasure. So I'm getting more of a boost, more joy, more enjoyment of the wholesome things like, you know, creating music, drawing, art, doing a load of laundry, folding a load of laundry well, that I'm actually getting that pleasure from more helpful things. So those are the two questions for the Q&A today. Do I eat nightshades? How do I react to them? The answer now being looks like no. And then the other one is, what about artificial sweeteners and even natural sweeteners like monk fruit and stevia? And that's my report for this week, that I find that as I'm letting them go, as I'm drawing them down, it gets better and better. And that the bottom line is, the less of them that I eat, the more freedom that I get, and the more I am enjoying life. And I hope that you have the same experience. A lot of us don't want to let go of the foods that we love and the foods that we crave until we discover that by letting them go, we make room in our lives for things that are really fun, like our hobbies, our vocations, and our avocations. For next week, the two questions that I'm going to be looking at is, can a carnivore diet help people with gum disease and periodontal disease? And then the other question that I was asked is, do you have lipedema? And I was like, lipedema? Lymphedema? No, not lymphedema, which you would get after removal of breast cancer. And I have friends who have that. No, not that. And not dyslipidemia, which is having weird lipid levels in your blood. No, lipedema is actually a condition of the way that you carry fat in your legs. And that question came from, I had posted before and after pictures of myself and a few from my clients from when I was a personal trainer, from my physical transformation. So those are the two topics for next week. Those are going to be on lipedema, and then also the connection between carnivore diet and healing periodontal disease. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Go out there, have a wonderful day, and remember, eat for yourself. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.